Welcome back to Rhythm Guitar Book 2. This book focuses on open chords, strumming, and fingerstyle patterns. You can watch all these videos for free, but it's going to be a lot easier to learn if you have your own copy of Rhythm Guitar 2 that you can read from and write in, so I'll leave a link for that in the description. We're on pages 70 and 71. We're going to learn the C to G bass run. On page 70, we have our C and G bass run. Here's your C to G with your normal bass strum. Number R112 shows how to do a C to G bass run. So what we do here is we play bass and a strum on a C. Then on beat 3, we move right to fret 2 on the 5th string, and then on beat 4, we play the 5th string open, and then we move to our G chord. So it sounds like this. Bass run, finger 2, open to G. And again. This one's a little different from the bass runs you've learned before, the G to E minor and the C and A minor. With those, when you started your bass run, you started playing on the same bass note that was part of your chord. In this case, we move to a new bass note on beat 3. New bass note. And that's because the distance from C to G is bigger than the distance from C to A minor or from G to E minor. And of course, any bass run you can play in one direction, you can play in the other. So R113, we have our G to C bass run. So on a G chord, we play a bass and a strum. Bass run begins on beat 3, move to the 5th string open, and then 5th string 2nd fret, and then to your C chord. So G chord, bass, strum, 5th string open, 2, and then your C chord. And at the bottom of page 70, we have the C to G loop. This is number R114. And this is just like the other loop exercises you've done with bass runs. We're just doing it with C's and G's now. So you play on a C, bass, strum, then do your bass run to an open to your G chord, bass, strum, to your 5th string open, and 2 to your C chord, bass run, G, bass run, and you just do that a bunch of times. And so forth. So these loop exercises make really good exercises, and they're a good way of developing your timing. On page 71, we have Guide My Feet for the 3rd time. We did it in the last 2 lessons as well. As I explained in the last lesson, this song has so many places you can do bass runs, so it's really good for practicing these things. We're back in the key of G, so now we're going to be using G, C, and E minor chords. And I've marked the C to G runs in this music. I've also marked the G and E minor runs you did before. And when you practice this, I recommend playing just the G and C runs first, and then see if you can incorporate all the G and E minor runs. And when you have a song that has so many bass runs, when you're performing this, I would not play all of these bass runs. It's just overkill to do every single one of these. Pick and choose your bass runs. If you do it too often, it loses its effect. If you do it a few times, it has just the right effect. So at the beginning of Guide My Feet, we have G, guide my feet. Now we already have a bass run in measure 2, and check out the next measure. We have another bass run going right back from C to G. So that loop exercise that is on page 70 applies directly to this song. So beginning again, we have G, guide my. Now we have a G to C run, feet. Our bass run starts here. we go right back. Bass, strum, and then do our bass run C to G. So the timing of that third measure, while I, that's bass, strum, and then run this, that's going to be your bass run. Run this, race. Now there's a G and E minor bass run marked above that last measure. We're not going to do it now, but I will do a version of it in the playthrough. So right to the next measure, or next line, E minor, my feet, while I run this race. So no C and G bass runs there. However, third line is the same as the first line, so we have those same bass runs. So we have third line, guide my feet, bass run G to C, and our back-to-back bass run, while I, here's our bass run this race, for I, and then the last line, don't want to, and we have one more bass run this, on the word race, on beat 3, we start our run, 2, 1, so that's going to be run this race in vain. Race in vain. Sorry, I tripped over my words there. I'm going to play this one twice. The first time it's going to be only with C and G bass runs. The second time I am going to play all of the bass runs, including the G and E minor bass runs. Both times I'm going to play at a very moderate tempo, quarter equals 80. And again, I always encourage you to play along with the video so you can practice keeping a steady tempo, but also in this case, working on the timing of your bass runs. Now, if you want to play your own tempo, go ahead and get a metronome and set your own speed. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. One, two, 1, 2, 3, 4. Your assignment is to continue practicing the G to E minor loop exercise on page 66, the C to A minor loop exercise on page 68, and your new C to G loop on page 70. And of course, practice Guide My Feet on page 71. First practice it with only the C and G bass runs, and then once you're comfortable with that, really make it a challenge and work in those G and E minor bass runs as well. As always, work on keeping a steady beat by playing along with the video or practicing to a metronome so you can choose your own tempo. Practice all this until you're comfortable with it, and when you're ready, I'll see you on page 72 with the C to F bass run.